July 28, 2025, was one of the darkest days in the history of Suceava Province and its surrounding areas, when heavy rains that fell overnight caused massive flash floods. Thousands of residents were forced to evacuate, infrastructure was destroyed, and one person was reportedly killed after being swept away by a swollen river. This flood was recorded as the worst in 5 decades, surpassing a similar event in 1975. The Romanian National Meteorological Service reported that extreme rainfall of up to 120 millimeters in 12 hours caused the Bistrița and Moldova Rivers to overflow. Global climate change is believed to be exacerbating the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events in Eastern Europe. Saturated soil and hilly topography accelerate the flow of water towards residential areas, creating flash floods that strike quickly and destructively. Several villages and towns in Suceava and Neamț counties were particularly affected. Broșteni. All power lines were cut off, houses were submerged in mud, and a 66-year-old resident was found dead. Neagra and Câmpulung Moldovenesc. Roads turned into torrents, vehicular access was completely paralyzed, and hundreds of families fled to higher ground. Valtăceni and Vatra Dornei. Schools, markets, and health facilities were also flooded, forcing the suspension of public activities. Romanian emergency authorities responded quickly. More than 880 people were evacuated using emergency vehicles and military helicopters. The central government deployed more than 500 personnel from the Ministry for Emergency Situations, the Fire Department, and the Red Cross. 17 helicopters were flown from a military base in Cluj to evacuate residents from isolated areas. Makeshift tents were set up at the local stadium and school hall to accommodate the evacuees. The floods also disrupted electricity and communications. More than 15,000 homes experienced power outages. A base station was damaged, causing phone and internet disruptions throughout the Suceava region. The government installed an emergency communication station to ensure rescue coordination continues. One person died and hundreds were evacuated from Suceava and Neamț counties following the red flood code on Sunday. Unfortunately, during the monitoring missions of the affected areas, the intervention forces identified the body of a person in the bed of the Neagra stream, in the Broșteni area. The water flow is very high, and the crews will intervene to access the victim and evacuate her. The military firefighters are engaged in specific missions in the area of the Broșteni Administrative Territorial Unit, which was the most affected by the floods, said the Suceava ISU officials. The Suceava firefighters claim that dozens of people remained isolated by the waters and were evacuated. With specific accessories, the rescuers continue to intervene to evacuate the people who remained isolated following the floods and the leaks from the slopes. Although the water flow is decreasing, their level remains high, and the strong currents make it difficult to carry out the intervention missions. Up to now, over 20 people, adults and children, have been evacuated and brought to safety areas, added ISU officials. Following the weather phenomena, ISU Suceava recorded 137 phone calls in the area of the city of Broșteni and the neighboring localities, Dârmoxa, Neagra, Holdada, and Cotargăsai. According to ISU Suceava, during the manifestation of the dangerous weather phenomena, 2 road bridges were damaged or destroyed in the localities of Frosin and Dorotea. Also, DN-177A collapsed between the localities of Ostra and Stolpicani, becoming impassable, and portions of DN-17B were covered by alluvium or fallen trees. Regarding rescue interventions, 33 people were evacuated and saved in the Broșteni area, and another 8 people, including 2 children, were evacuated and taken to safety areas in the Ostra area. Following the manifestation of the forecasted hydrometeorological phenomena, 25 localities in 9 counties of the country, Alba, Arad, Argeș, Batasani, Harghita, Hunedoara, Neamț, Suceava and Valsia, faced various effects caused by heavy rains, floods and strong winds, the IGSU reports. In these areas, intervention teams were mobilized to evacuate the accumulated water from 2 homes, 4 yards, a basement, 7 outbuildings, and 3 streets. Also, dislocated construction elements were removed from the roofs of 3 buildings, and 25 trees and 5 fallen electricity poles were cleared to free access routes and prevent further damage. As a result of these incidents, 2 vehicles were damaged. The quoted source also states, significant floods were recorded in Suceava and Neamț counties, generated by the overflow of the Dârmoxa and Neagra streams in Suceava and the Bistrița River in Neamț. A considerable number of households were affected, but the exact assessment is ongoing, as the situation is constantly changing. In the Neagra locality, a person was found deceased in the Neagra streambed, but access to it is difficult due to the flood that isolates the area. In Broșteni, 4 people were caught in the flood, caused by the overflow of the Dârmoxa and Neagra streams, tributaries of the Bistrița River. They were rescued by the intervention teams, while another 16 people self-evacuated as a precaution, being relocated to relatives or to the cultural center in the locality. In the Dârmoxa locality, another person was caught in the overflowing waters of the stream of the same name, but was rescued in time by the intervention forces. In Ostra, 4 people were preventively evacuated from a flooded house, being safely relocated to relatives, thanks to the care of local authorities. At the same time, on DN17B, in the area of the Broșteni locality, road traffic was temporarily disrupted due to the accumulation of rainwater and alluvium deposited on the roadway. Also, traffic on DJ209A, between the localities of Găinești and Slatina, is still blocked. Specialized teams are working on site to clear the roads and resume traffic as soon as possible. The floods seriously affected the localities of Farcesa, Borca and Poiana Taiului, following the establishment of the hydrological red code on the Bistrița River. In order to protect the population in the areas exposed to risk, the authorities ordered the preventive evacuation of 890 people. Of these, 760 come from the locality of Farcesa, 100 from Borca and 30 from Poiana Taiului. The evacuated people were relocated either to relatives or to spaces made available by local authorities. The Romanian government declared a regional state of emergency and allocated an additional 15 million euros for disaster management. Romanian President Elena Dragomir personally inspected the affected areas and declared flood management a national priority. We will cover the damages suffered by people from the flood last night from the reserve fund. In such moments, solidarity is needed, rapid intervention by state authorities, real support for people. It is terrible to see households and houses swallowed by water, roads destroyed, and people who, in a single night, lost everything they had accumulated in a lifetime. In Broșteni, the president of the Suceava County Council wrote on social media. He states that the institution will do everything in its power so that the lives of those affected return to normal as quickly as possible. The Suceava floods are a stark reminder that the threat of the climate crisis knows no geographical boundaries. Global cooperation is needed to reduce carbon emissions, design disaster-resilient cities, and strengthen human solidarity.
Aici nu tu știi. Vine acum? Cred că vine.